mask they wear, what Jung knew about hidden hatred. If you have ever sat across from someone who smiled at you while their eyes remained cold, if you have ever felt a chill in a room that should have been warm, if you have ever sensed that beneath the pleasant words something darker was breathing, then you already know what I am about to tell you. Not everyone who walks beside you wishes you well, and the ones who harbor the deepest resentment are rarely the ones who show it openly. Carl Jung spent decades exploring the hidden architecture of the human psyche. He understood that hatred, when it cannot be spoken, does not disappear. It goes underground. It puts on a mask. It learns to smile while it sharpens its blade in the dark. And the person wearing that mask may not even know they are wearing it. Jung called this the shadow, the part of ourselves we cannot face, the feelings we cannot admit, the impulses we have been taught to bury. When someone close to you carries unacknowledged hatred, their shadow does not stay silent. It leaks. It reveals itself in gestures so subtle you might dismiss them, in patterns so quiet you might blame yourself for noticing. But your body knows, your instincts know, and what I am about to share will help you understand what they have been trying to tell you. There is a particular kind of pain that comes from being hated by someone who pretends to care. It is not the clean wound of open conflict. It is the slow poison of doubt, the constant questioning of your own perception, the wondering if you are imagining things, if you are too sensitive, if you are the problem. Jung understood that this confusion is intentional, not always consciously but psychologically necessary, because the person who hates you in secret is also hiding that hatred from themselves. They have constructed an identity that cannot include such dark feelings. They see themselves as good, as supportive, as your friend, your family, your ally. And so the hatred must be denied, pushed down, locked away in the basement of their awareness. But the shadow does not obey the rules of the conscious mind. It finds other ways to express itself, through tone, through timing, through the small cruelties that can always be explained away as accidents, as jokes, as misunderstandings. And if you have been feeling that something is wrong, if your instincts have been whispering warnings that your rational mind keeps dismissing, then it is time to listen more closely. Because Jung taught that the body reads what the conscious mind refuses to see. The first sign appears in the way they speak about your joy, not your pain. They can often be present for that, even generous with sympathy. But your victories, your moments of genuine happiness, your successes that required nothing from them but celebration, this is where the mask begins to slip. Watch what happens when you share good news. Do they lean in, eyes bright, asking questions that pull more detail from you? Or do they lean back, offering a thin smile and words that sound congratulatory but land hollow? Jung observed that genuine happiness for another person requires a secure sense of self. It requires that your success does not threaten their worth. But when someone's identity is built on comparison, on maintaining a sense of superiority or at least equality, your rising feels like they're falling. They will not say this. They may not even know this. But you will feel it in the silence that follows your announcement. In the way they change the subject just a moment too quickly. In the compliment that arrives with a barb hidden inside it. That's wonderful. I'm surprised they chose you. Or, good for you. I could never settle for something like that. These are not slips of the tongue. These are eruptions of the shadow. The resentment they cannot acknowledge finds its way out through language that cuts while pretending to caress. And if you point it out, if you say, "That hurt," they will look genuinely confused. Because in their conscious mind, they were being supportive. The shadow operates below their awareness, but not below yours. The second sign lives in the patterns of their presence and absence. Jung believed that energy does not lie. You can control your words. You can manage your facial expressions. But you cannot fake where your energy naturally flows. Someone who genuinely cares will be drawn toward your important moments. Not out of obligation, but out of authentic investment in your well-being. They show up because being there matters to them. But someone carrying hidden resentment will find reasons to be elsewhere. They will remember the event too late. They will have a conflict that could have been rescheduled but somehow was not. They will offer elaborate apologies that feel sincere but repeat month after month, year after year. And here is what makes this particularly painful. They may be entirely present during your difficulties. This seems contradictory until you understand the shadow's logic. Your pain does not threaten them. Your pain may even unconsciously satisfy something dark within them, the part that needs you to struggle so they can maintain their sense of being ahead, being better, being the one who has it together. So they arrive for your crisis with comfort and advice. But your celebration, your triumph, your moment of pure, uncomplicated joy, suddenly they are busy. Suddenly something else demands their attention. Jung would tell you to notice this pattern. Once is circumstance, twice is coincidence, 3 times is communication from the unconscious. The third sign emerges in the stories they tell about you when you are not in the room. You will not witness this directly, but you will feel its effects. The subtle shift in how others respond to you, the strange looks from people who should not have certain information, the questions that reveal someone has been feeding them a version of you that you do not recognize. This is the shadow's favorite weapon, the poison spread through whispers. Jung understood that projection is the primary mechanism through which the shadow operates. We cannot bear to see certain qualities in ourselves, so we project them onto others. We make them the carrier of what we deny in ourselves. Someone who secretly resents you will begin to speak about you as if you embody their own hidden flaws. If they are deeply insecure but cannot admit it, they will describe you as arrogant. If they are manipulative but see themselves as innocent, they will warn others that you cannot be trusted. If they are envious but cannot face their envy, they will paint you as someone who thinks they are better than everyone else. And they will do this with such conviction that they believe it themselves. Because in their internal narrative, they are not attacking you. They are protecting others from you. They are simply being honest about what they have observed. The shadow always justifies itself. It always finds a way to make its cruelty look like virtue. The fourth sign appears in the economy of their attention. Not the attention they give, but the attention they withhold. Jung recognized that love and hatred are not opposites. Indifference is the opposite of both. But hidden hatred wears the costume of care while practicing the art of strategic neglect. This person remembers the details that allow them to maintain the relationship. They remember your birthday, perhaps. They ask polite questions. They perform the minimum gestures that keep them positioned as someone who cares. But notice what they forget. They forget the things that matter to you most. The project you have been working on for months. The difficult conversation you mentioned having next week. The loss you shared in a vulnerable moment. These things slide off their memory as if coated in oil. And when you bring it up, "I told you about this, remember?" They apologize with a confusion that seems genuine. Because consciously they have no desire to hurt you. But the unconscious knows exactly what it is doing. The shadow withholds attention from what it resents. It creates a pattern of forgetting that is never quite severe enough to justify confrontation, but consistent enough to leave you feeling unseen. Jung taught that this is a form of psychological violence. The person cannot acknowledge their hostility, so they express it through absence disguised as forgetfulness. Through the failure to witness what makes you human. And over time, this pattern trains you to stop sharing, to stop expecting, to gradually withdraw your authentic self from someone who claims to want to know you but consistently demonstrates they would rather not. The fifth sign lives in the way they offer help. At first glance, they appear supportive. They volunteer advice. They insert themselves into your decisions. They seem eager to guide you. But Jung would ask you to notice the quality of this guidance. Does it empower you or does it subtly undermine you? Does it build your confidence or does it leave you feeling more dependent, more uncertain, more doubtful of your own judgment? Someone who genuinely wants you to thrive offers help that eventually makes you need them less. They teach you to fish rather than creating a permanent dependency on their fishing. But someone whose shadow resents you will offer help that keeps you small. They will give advice that sounds wise but somehow never quite works when you follow it. They will position themselves as the expert on your life while questioning your ability to navigate it yourself. "Are you sure that's a good idea?" becomes a refrain. "I just worry about you" becomes a cage. "You know I only want what's best for you" becomes the preamble to every criticism, every doubt they plant, every way they shape you to stay beneath them. Jung called this the power shadow, the part of the psyche that needs to dominate, to control, to keep others in a subordinate position. It cannot coexist with your full empowerment, and so it helps in ways that harm. It supports in ways that sabotage. The key is in how you feel after their intervention. Truly supportive people leave you feeling more capable. People operating from the shadow leave you feeling more confused. The sixth sign manifests in the terrain of celebration and suffering. Jung observed that the shadow reveals itself most clearly in moments of emotional intensity, both positive and negative. And someone carrying hidden resentment will respond to these moments in a pattern that tells you everything. When you suffer, they are present but strangely energized. There is something almost eager in how they engage with your pain. They ask detailed questions. They seem fully invested. Not because they want to help you heal, but because your struggle confirms something they need to believe about you, about themselves, about the natural order of things. Your pain does not threaten their self-image. In fact, it reinforces it. But when you celebrate, something shifts. The energy drains from their face. Their body language closes. They offer congratulations that sound like they are being read from a script they did not write and do not believe in. This is not mere envy, though envy is certainly part of it. This is something deeper. Your joy represents a disruption in the unconscious narrative they have constructed. A narrative in which you are the one who struggles while they are the one who succeeds. Or a narrative in which neither of you succeeds, but at least you are suffering together. Your genuine happiness breaks that story. And the shadow cannot tolerate a story it did not author. Jung would tell you to watch for the pattern. One instance teaches you nothing. But if you notice that this person becomes most engaged when you are down and most distant when you are up, you are witnessing the shadow's architecture. They need you to remain in a certain position. And when you threaten to rise beyond it, the unconscious resentment surfaces in 1,000 subtle ways. The seventh sign appears in the aftermath of conflict. Every relationship experiences disagreement. But Jung understood that how people handle repair reveals the truth of their intentions. When you have hurt someone who genuinely cares for you, they tell you. They express their pain, they work through it with you, and once resolution is reached, they release it. The conflict becomes part of the history you share, but it does not become a weapon they stockpile for future use. But someone whose shadow harbors hatred never truly lets go. They say they forgive, but the transgression is filed away, cataloged, saved for the moment when it can be deployed with maximum effect. Months later, in an unrelated conversation, they will reference it. Well, you know how you are, remember when you... The wound you thought was healed is revealed to have been festering in the dark, feeding their unconscious narrative of your unworthiness. Jung called this shadow accounting, the psyche's way of maintaining a ledger of grievances that justifies its hidden hostility. Every mistake you make is recorded. Every moment of weakness is preserved. Not to help you grow, but to prove to themselves that their resentment is reasonable. And here is the cruelest part. They will never keep the same accounting for themselves. Their own failures are quickly forgotten, minimized, explained away by context. But yours are evidence of your fundamental character. This double standard is not logical. It is psychological. The shadow needs you to be flawed so it can justify what it feels but cannot admit. The eighth sign is the most subtle and perhaps the most revealing. It exists in the realm Jung called the body's truth, the place where the unconscious speaks through gesture, through tone, through the involuntary signals that no amount of conscious control can fully suppress. You are talking to this person and something feels wrong. You cannot name it. Their words are kind. Their face is arranged in appropriate expressions. But beneath it all, something is misaligned. Their smile does not reach their eyes. Or it does, but only for a fraction of a second before it hardens into something performative. Their embrace feels stiff, as if their body is executing a command it does not want to follow. Their laughter arrives just slightly too late, as if it had to travel a long distance to reach their throat. These are not conscious choices. The shadow operates below the level of intentional performance. And while the conscious mind can rehearse words and expressions, the body betrays what is actually being felt. Jung spent years studying this phenomenon. He noticed that when people tried to hide strong emotions, their bodies would leak the truth through micro-expressions, through changes in breathing, through the tension in their hands. If someone's warmth toward you is genuine, their body confirms it. There is a coherence between what they say and how they hold themselves. The energy flows naturally. But if the warmth is a mask covering resentment, the body will tell you. You will feel the coldness beneath the performance. You will sense the effort it requires for them to maintain the facade. And this is perhaps the most important thing Jung would want you to understand. Your discomfort in their presence is not your imagination. It is your unconscious mind reading signals that your conscious mind is trying to dismiss. There is a question that arises when you begin to see these patterns. A question that Jung himself wrestled with throughout his work. What do you do with this knowledge? Because once you see the mask, you cannot unsee it. Once you recognize the shadow operating in someone close to you, you are faced with a choice that has no easy answer. Jung would tell you that the first task is not to confront them. The first task is to trust yourself. You have been trained to doubt your perceptions, trained to give people the benefit of the doubt even when your instincts are screaming, trained to believe that noticing someone's hidden hostility makes you the problem. Paranoid, oversensitive, unable to accept love. But the shadow relies on your self-doubt. It relies on your willingness to question your own clarity so it can continue operating in the dark. The moment you begin to trust what you sense, everything changes. Jung understood that awareness itself is a form of protection. Not because it allows you to change the other person. You cannot heal someone else's shadow, but because it allows you to stop participating in the dynamic that keeps you wounded. When you can see clearly that someone close to you carries hidden resentment, you begin to make different choices. Not dramatic ones necessarily. Not confrontations that demand confession, but quiet adjustments in how much access you give them to your inner world. You stop sharing your victories with someone who cannot celebrate them. You stop seeking comfort from someone who is secretly pleased by your pain. You stop asking for guidance from someone whose advice consistently leads you towards self-doubt. This is not bitterness. This is discernment. Jung made a distinction that most people miss. He taught that forgiveness does not require continued exposure. You can release your anger towards someone while also acknowledging that they are not safe for your soul. The shadow in them is not your responsibility to heal. Your responsibility is to protect the parts of yourself that are still trying to grow. There is a deeper layer to this that Jung explored in his later work. He recognized that sometimes the person carrying hidden hatred toward you is acting out a role in a larger family or social system. They are not simply individuals with personal resentment. They are carriers of something collective, something passed down through generations. Perhaps they learned to hate success because success was punished in their family. Perhaps they learned to resent joy because joy was treated as naive or dangerous. Perhaps they learned to undermine others because that was how power was maintained in the world they grew up in. This does not excuse their behavior, but it helps you understand that their shadow is bigger than you. You did not create their resentment by being yourself. You simply triggered something that was already there, waiting for a target. Jung called these archetypal patterns, psychological structures that repeat across time and culture. The envious sibling, the threatened friend, the parent who cannot tolerate the child's independence. These are not new stories. They are ancient dramas that play out in every generation. And when you find yourself cast in one of these dramas, the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to play the role they have assigned you. This refusal is not an act of aggression. It is an act of boundary setting that most people have never learned. Because we are taught that love means acceptance, that family means loyalty regardless of cost, that friendship means staying even when staying hurts. But Jung would ask, what kind of love requires you to betray yourself? What kind of loyalty demands that you remain small so someone else can feel large? What kind of friendship only works when you are the one who suffers? These are not relationships. These are arrangements. Unconscious contracts where you agree to stay in a diminished position so the other person never has to face their shadow. And the moment you begin to grow beyond that position, the hidden resentment surfaces. Not because you have done something wrong, but because you have violated the unspoken terms. They needed you to stay where you were. Your evolution threatens the equilibrium they depend on. And so the shadow strikes, sometimes through obvious cruelty, but more often through the subtle erosions I have been describing. Jung taught that the path to individuation, to becoming fully yourself, requires that you recognize these contracts and choose to break them. Not with anger, but with clarity. Not with blame, but with a quiet insistence on your right to occupy the full space of your own life. There is a particular loneliness that comes with this recognition. Because once you see the truth about someone you thought cared for you, you must grieve not just the relationship as it is, but the relationship you believed it to be. You must grieve the friend who you thought celebrated your success but who was actually counting your failures. You must grieve the family member who you thought wanted your happiness but who was unconsciously invested in your struggle. You must grieve the partner who you thought saw your potential but who needed you to stay limited. This grief is necessary. Jung believed that all transformation requires a death. Not a literal death, but the death of an illusion, the death of a false security, the death of the story you told yourself to make reality more bearable. And in this case, the story is, this person loves me. The truth is more complex. Perhaps they love the version of you that fits their narrative. Perhaps they love the idea of you but resent the reality. Perhaps they love you and hate you simultaneously, split between conscious care and unconscious hostility. Jung called this the tension of opposites, the psyche's ability to hold contradictory feelings at the same time. The problem is not that they feel both love and resentment. The problem is that they cannot acknowledge the resentment, and so it operates in the dark, poisoning the love that might otherwise be genuine. So what do you do when you realize someone close to you harbors this hidden hatred? Jung's answer was neither simple nor comforting. He said, you must decide how much truth you can tolerate and how much illusion you need to survive. Some people, when they see the shadow in someone they love, choose to stay. They lower their expectations. They stop sharing their full selves. They accept the relationship for what it is rather than what they wish it could be. This is not weakness. Sometimes this is wisdom, especially when the relationship is embedded in a larger structure, a family system, a workplace, a community that cannot be easily exited. But if you choose to stay, you must do so with your eyes open. You must stop expecting them to become something they have shown you they are not. You must stop hoping that if you just explain yourself clearly enough, if you just love them well enough, they will suddenly see you and celebrate you and stop needing you to be small. They will not, because their need for you to be small is not about you. It is about them. And you cannot heal someone else's shadow by contorting yourself into a shape that fits their dysfunction. Other people, when they see the shadow clearly, choose to leave. They create distance, physical or emotional or both. They step back from the relationship and allow it to fade into something less central, less influential, less capable of wounding them. This choice also requires courage, because it means disappointing someone who has claimed to care about you. It means being called cold, ungrateful, selfish by the very person whose hidden cruelty drove you away. The shadow does not accept responsibility. When you set a boundary, it will accuse you of being the problem. When you create distance, it will tell others that you are the one who changed, who became difficult, who rejected them for no reason. And you will have to live with being misunderstood. You will have to live with knowing that the truth is more complicated than the story they tell, but you cannot control their narrative. Jung believed this is part of the cost of individuation. When you choose to honor your truth over their comfort, some people will cast you as the villain. And you must be willing to be the villain in someone else's story if that is the price of being the hero in your own. There is a practice Jung engaged in that might help you navigate this territory. He called it holding the tension, the ability to sit with discomfort, with ambiguity, with questions that have no clear answers without rushing toward resolution. When you recognize hidden hatred in someone close to you, every instinct will push you toward immediate action. Confront them, cut them off, force clarity, demand acknowledgement. But the shadow does not respond to direct confrontation. If you accuse someone of secretly resenting you, they will deny it, genuinely, because their conscious mind does not recognize what their unconscious is doing. And then you will be left looking paranoid while they appear reasonable. Instead, Jung would suggest you sit with the knowledge. You hold it. You let it inform your choices without announcing it. You begin to protect yourself quietly without making yourself a target of their defensive rage. This is not dishonesty. This is psychological maturity. Understanding that not every truth needs to be spoken aloud. That sometimes the wisest thing you can do is know what you know and act accordingly, without demanding that others validate your perception. Over time, as you hold this tension, something shifts. The relationship does not change. They do not suddenly become self-aware or stop resenting you. But you change. You stop needing them to be different. You stop hoping for a transformation that is not coming. And in that acceptance, you find a strange freedom. The power they had over you, the power to make you doubt yourself, to make you feel small, to make you question your worth, begins to dissolve. Because you finally understand that their inability to celebrate you says nothing about your value. Their resentment is a mirror reflecting their own pain, not a judgment on your character. Jung taught that the greatest gift you can give yourself is the refusal to internalize someone else's shadow. When they project their inadequacy onto you, you can choose not to catch it. When they try to make their resentment your responsibility, you can choose to hand it back. This is not easy. It requires practice. It requires that you remember again and again that you are not responsible for managing their unconscious hostility. You are only responsible for protecting your own soul from its effects. There is something Jung discovered late in his career that might be the most important insight of all. He found that people who successfully navigate relationships with hidden hatred, people who neither collapse under it nor become hardened by it, develop what he called the transcendent function. This is the psyche's ability to hold two opposing truths simultaneously without being torn apart by the contradiction. The truth is, this person cares about you in some genuine way. And the truth is, this person also resents you in ways they cannot acknowledge. Both can be true. Both are true. Most people cannot hold this complexity. They need the person to be either good or bad, either loving or hateful, either safe or dangerous. But Jung understood that human beings are not that simple. We are walking contradictions. We contain multitudes, and the people closest to us often carry the most conflicting feelings. The transcendent function allows you to see someone's hidden hostility without needing to destroy the entire relationship in response. It allows you to protect yourself while also maintaining compassion. It allows you to create boundaries without hatred, distance without rage. This is mastery. Not the mastery of control, but the mastery of perception. The ability to see clearly and respond wisely rather than react blindly. Jung also observed that recognizing hidden hatred in others forces you to confront the shadow in yourself. Because the truth is, you also carry resentments you have not fully acknowledged. You also feel envy you have not admitted. You also harbor hostilities that leak out in ways you pretend not to notice. The person who secretly resents you is not fundamentally different from you. They are simply further along in a pattern you also participate in. And if you are honest, truly honest, you will recognize moments when you have been the one wearing the mask. This recognition is not meant to create shame. It is meant to create humility, to remind you that the shadow is universal, that we all struggle with parts of ourselves we cannot face. That judgment is easy, but understanding is the harder, more valuable work. When you can see the shadow in yourself, you become less reactive to it in others. You can recognize it, name it, protect yourself from it, without needing to punish the person carrying it. This does not mean you tolerate abuse. It means you respond from wisdom rather than wounded ego. You set boundaries from strength rather than retaliation. You create distance from clarity rather than bitterness. There comes a point in this journey when you must make a decision that no one else can make for you. Jung was clear about this. Individuation requires choice. Conscious, deliberate choice about who you allow into your inner circle and on what terms. Some relationships can continue once you understand the shadow dynamics at play. You adjust your expectations. You protect your vulnerabilities. You engage from a more boundaried place. The relationship becomes more honest, even if it becomes less close. Other relationships cannot survive this adjustment because they were built on your willingness to stay small. They were sustained by your acceptance of hidden cruelty. And once you refuse to play that role, there is nothing left to hold them together. This is grief, real grief. Not for what the relationship is, but for what you hoped it would become. For the parent you wish had celebrated you. For the friend you wish had genuinely supported you. For the partner you wish had wanted your wholeness instead of your brokenness. Jung taught that this grief must be felt fully before you can move forward. You cannot bypass it. You cannot think your way around it. You must sit in the sadness of recognizing that some people will never give you what you need from them, no matter how clearly you ask, no matter how perfectly you perform, no matter how much you prove your worthiness. Their inability to see you is not about your value. It is about their vision. And you cannot force someone to see what their shadow has taught them to unsee. But here is what Jung also knew. what sustained him through his own encounters with betrayal and hidden hostility. Recognizing these patterns frees you to seek what you need elsewhere. When you stop expecting celebration from someone who resents your joy, you have energy to find people who genuinely want you to thrive. When you stop seeking support from someone whose shadow needs you to struggle, you can build relationships with people whose security is not threatened by your success. This is not about replacing people. It is about right relationship, putting people in the roles they are actually capable of filling rather than the roles you wish they could fill. Perhaps that family member who resents your growth can still be someone you share holidays with, but not someone you call with your dreams. Perhaps that friend who cannot celebrate you can still be someone you see occasionally, but not someone you turn to when something wonderful happens. Jung called this appropriate distance. Not abandonment, not punishment, but a realistic assessment of what each relationship can safely hold. And in creating this appropriate distance, you make room for relationships that feed your soul rather than drain it. You make room for people who do not need you to be less so they can feel like more. You make room for genuine connection that does not require you to shrink. There is a final teaching Jung offered that feels crucial here. He said that the unconscious is not evil. The shadow is not the enemy. It is simply the part of ourselves we have not yet integrated, the feelings we have not yet made conscious, the truths we have not yet learned to speak. When someone close to you carries hidden hatred, they are not a monster. They are a wounded human being whose pain has found no healthy outlet. Their resentment is often the calcified form of their own ungrieved losses, their own unmet needs, their own unlived life. This understanding does not require you to accept their behavior, but it allows you to see them with more complexity, to recognize that hurt people, often without knowing they are doing it. And perhaps most importantly, it reminds you that your own shadow also needs attention, that the parts of yourself you judge most harshly are the parts that most need your compassion. That integration, not rejection, is the path toward wholeness. Jung's entire body of work points toward one central truth. You cannot become whole by cutting away the parts of yourself you do not like. You can only become whole by bringing those parts into consciousness, by understanding them, by making peace with them. The same is true in relationship. You cannot create authentic connection by pretending the shadow does not exist. You can only create authentic connection by acknowledging it, in yourself and in others, and choosing how much of it you are willing to hold. So if you have recognized these signs in someone close to you, if you have felt the chill beneath their warmth, if you have sensed the hostility hiding behind their smile, let me tell you what Jung would want you to know. You are not paranoid. You are perceptive. You are not too sensitive. You are appropriately responsive to real signals. You are not imagining the coldness. You are reading what the body cannot lie about. And now that you see it, you have a choice. Not a choice about whether they will change, you cannot control that, but a choice about how you will respond, about how much access you will give them, about what you will continue to share and what you will now protect. This choice is yours, and it is sacred, because it determines not just the shape of that relationship, but the shape of your life. How much of yourself you will sacrifice to keep someone comfortable, how much truth you will deny to maintain peace, how much of your soul you will offer to someone who cannot hold it without crushing it. Jung spent his life teaching that the journey toward wholeness requires you to stop betraying yourself for the comfort of others, to stop making yourself small so others can feel large, to stop pretending you do not see what you clearly see. The shadow thrives in silence, in the refusal to name what is happening, in the agreement to pretend that everything is fine when everything is not fine. But the moment you speak the truth, even if only to yourself, the shadow loses some of its power. Not all of it. You cannot make someone face what they are not ready to face, but you can stop participating in the illusion. You can stop letting their unconscious hostility shape how you see yourself. If these words have found you in a moment when you needed them, if something here has helped you see more clearly what you have been sensing but could not name, leave a word below. Not for me, but for the others who are sitting with this same recognition, wondering if they are the only ones who feel the coldness beneath the warmth. Your acknowledgement might be the permission someone else needs to trust their own perception. And if you want to continue exploring the hidden territories of human relationship, the places where Jung's insights illuminate what most people never examine, stay with me. There is more to understand, more to see, more to integrate about how we wound each other and how we heal. You were not meant to be diminished by those who claim to love you. You were meant to be witnessed, celebrated, and held by people whose security is not threatened by your light. Trust what you sense, honor what you know, and protect the truth of who you are, even when, especially when, someone close to you needs you to be less than that. The shadow is not your burden to carry for them. Your wholeness is not a threat to anyone who genuinely wants you to thrive. And you deserve relationships that reflect this truth back to you, clearly and without distortion.